Shalom and welcome back to part 2 of our series on the Rapture Doctrine. Today's video focus, we are going to be learning about where Babylon is, what is her end, and what are the borders that Yahweh is calling us to return to. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to receive notifications and updates on related content, as well as part 3 of this series. If you would like to support our work, please send a donation to our PayPal account. We have a PayPal link listed down below. So if not all, most of us have heard Babylon referred to as a harlot, a fornicator, or even an adulteress. And Yahweh has given us a clear explanation as to what a harlot is by the way we as Israel has acted towards him and have acted towards each other as a nation. So let's read Isaiah chapter 1 and find out what is a harlot in Yah's eyes and how does this apply to Babylon. It says, "See how Jerusalem, once so faithful, has become a prostitute. Once the home of justice and righteousness, she is now filled with murders. Your silver is become dross, and your wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious, and companions of thieves. Everyone loveth bribes and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widow come unto them." So in short, a harlot is one who lacks righteous judgment. They're murderous, they're rebellious, they're thieves, and they do bribes. And Babylon has displayed each and every one of this action from its beginning to this very day. So it starts with lacking righteous judgment. We all know the judicial system in America is corrupt. Babylon, she is also murderous. America is full of blood from the inception of the start of this country, from the genocide of the Native Americans. It was also stolen. They're thieves. The U.S. has either invaded, bombed, or stolen over 20 different countries and islands. The amount of kidnapping, murders, rapes from government to civilians are endless. And she is rebellious. Everyone on this earth comes specifically to America to be free and wild in their rebellion and in their wickedness. You all get the point. There's no other nation that fits this shoe better than America. So let's begin with Revelations chapter 18. It says, "After these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illuminated with his glory. And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird." So I've already harped on the uncleanliness of Babylon in part 1 of this series. And that's from the food is filled with hormones. The water is filled with blood and pharmaceuticals. There's cemeteries all over the place. The physical and mental diseases are higher than any other place on this earth. And the list continues. So we can already see from the obvious how unclean Babylon is. Verse 3, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through her delicacies." It says again, the wrath of her fornication. What other nation has exceeded and imposed the amount of economic, diplomatic, and travel sanctions other than the U.S. for refusing to fornicate with her? No one. It says the merchants of the earth have become rich through her delicacies. So outside of Shanghai, China, the United States has the world's largest global trading system, and that is facts. That is undeniable. So there's no way possible that, again, those who are saying that Babylon is everywhere, just by looking at these 2 verses, that Babylon could be everywhere. Every nation does not have a global, worldwide merchant city that the whole world is becoming rich off of. And again, for those of you who say that Babylon is everywhere, by this verse alone, you can see that this is not true. Yahweh would be a liar and unfair if he's saying to come out of a location so you won't be partakers of her sins and her plagues. And he's telling us to run from destruction to spare our lives. And then you're saying no matter where you go, you're still going to be trapped in this situation. And also throughout all of history, there has been only one Babylonian empire at a time. From the first one, the Akkadian Babylonian Empire, all the way down to the last Babylonian Empire ruled by Nebuchadnezzar. And each time a kingdom took over, they absorbed and they inherited the customs and the culture, in other words, the spirit of Babylon. And that has continued to this very day. So history repeats itself. After the American Babylonian Empire, who's going to be next? That's for another video, but I will drop the video down below on Come Out of Babylon by Sibaya, and you can find out more information about that. So we're going to skip down to verse 8. It says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Yahweh who judgeth her. The kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived deliciously with her will weep and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning." Verse 10, "And they will stand at a distance, terrified by her great torment, and they will cry out, how terrible for you, O Babylon, you great city. In 1 hour judgment came upon you, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn for her. For no man buyeth their merchandise anymore." So again, Babylon is everywhere. If the whole world is destroyed, then who are the nations that are crying and are seeing the destruction of Babylon? Does it make any sense? Let's continue on to Jeremiah chapter 50 and 51. Some who believe in the rapture doctrine say that these chapters are in reference specifically and only to the time of Jeremiah. As we read this chapter, I would like you to consider these points that I'm about to make. Throughout these 2 chapters, Yahweh continuously says that there will be a nation that will cause Babylon to become completely desolate and uninhabited from generation to generation. And at no point in history has the region of Mesopotamia or the Middle East have become completely demolished of human population. All we see is that nations have been fighting over these lands for the past few thousand years. And how do I know that this place is not demolished of population? I live in it. At no point in history, again, in the Bible, has it been stated that we have fled from our captivity outside of the Exodus in the time of Moses. And in fact, Pharaoh kicked us out. And then we fled because they were coming to kill us. We're not going to be kicked out of Babylon. They're just coming to kill us. So let's begin. I'm not going to read the whole entire chapter because this is an extremely long chapter. So I suggest after watching this video, you read the full chapter on your own. All right, let's move on and start off with verse 1. It says, "The word of Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. For out of the north a nation comes up against her, which shall make her land desolate, and no one shall dwell there. They shall move and they shall depart, both man and beast." So the north nation that will come up against Babylon is going to be Russia. I'm keeping this video short again, so if you want to know why, then watch the video that I will put in the description box. We will go over it a little bit in the middle of this video, but not in full detail. This nation from the north will make her land desolate and uninhabitable. How is this possible? Think about it. Verse 4, "And in those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. With continual weeping they shall come, and seek Yahweh their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion, with their faces toward it, saying, Come and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that will not be forgotten." So the prophets say that there will be a remnant of people who come from a north country, which is Babylon, who will pass through a highway of holiness. This will be on the way to the wilderness. So more about this subject will be in part 3. And again, I will link another video below that speaks of this as well. "Move from the midst of Babylon. Go out the land of the Chaldeans. Be like the rams before the flocks." Again, flee from Babylon. Don't stay there. "For behold, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly," now he says an assembly, "of great nations," plural, "from the north country. And they shall array themselves against her. From there she shall be captured. Their arrows shall be like those of an expert warrior, and none shall return in vain." So this time again, it says an assembly of nations will come against Babylon. This not only includes Russia, but this is also China and the other band of nations that are in support of this, such as Turkey and Iran. It says their arrows shall be like those of an expert warrior. So nobody uses arrows today. What is a modern day arrow that causes smoke, burning, death, and desolation? "Therefore the wild desert beast shall dwell there with the jackals, and the ostriches shall dwell there in it. It shall be uninhabited no more forever, forever. You are not going to survive this. Nor shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So again, just as the neighboring cities surrounding Sodom and Gomorrah were also destroyed, that includes Canada and Mexico. Just as Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone, he will do the same in America. For the last 15 to 20 years, Putin or Russian government and military officials have been threatening nuclear war against America and has announced several times about their nuclear and military advancements. Within the last 9 years, Russia's retired Navy official has mentioned twice that they have missiles pointing towards the San Andreas fault line, threatening basically to nuke the San Andreas fault. Also, that they have a missile that has the capability to reach Yellowstone's supervolcano. So because these threats have been going on for so long, there has been a lot of scoffers and disbelief, but call it grace. We all know that Yahweh is the one who anoints. He sets up kings in their powers, and the whole earth and its creation moans and groans for Israel to return to Yahweh. And Putin is just waiting for the right time. Whether you believe that Russia and his band of nations will be the one to destroy Babylon is neither here nor there. The point is that Babylon is going to be destroyed, and we are commanded to flee. We have some simple and clear explanations to her destruction, and that'll be according to Isaiah 47:5. She's going to experience darkness like never before. Jeremiah 50:3, she will be desolate. Verse 9, she's going to be shot with an arrow and uninhabited. 39, she'll be destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah. Revelation 16:18 speaks of the greatest earthquake man will ever experience on earth. Revelations 18:8-9 speaks of death, famine, and burning in one day. Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by brimstone and fire. Brimstone is just another old term for sulfur. So if you go to the Dead Sea region today, the whole region reeks of sulfur. It's full of sulfur. There's little to no life that surrounds the area outside of some shrubs and the few little palm trees that have been planted there by man themselves. So as I mentioned before, there's been constant threats of nuking Yellowstone's caldera. This is a form of fire coming down from heaven. Volcanoes contain high amounts of sulfur, which is inside of its magma. Again, fire and brimstone. This is a chart that was created by geologists. It's showing by radius and distance how the effect is going to look on the North American continent. So we can see that it's going to affect not only the United States, but also Canada and Mexico. Now, the darker areas are obviously showing where it's going to be affected the most, and the yellow areas where it's going to be affected not as much. So those of you who want to play with y'all and think that, oh, well, maybe I'll just move to the East Coast where it's yellow, or down to Central America or Northern Canada. So Revelation 16 says that there will be a massive earthquake. How will this earthquake be caused? So number one, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, the Russian military has threatened to nuke the San Andreas fault line, which can affect the west coast down to Mexico. It is very, very common that volcanic eruptions cause earthquake. Mind you, this is a super volcano. And we know that there are several fault lines throughout the North American continent. With an earthquake that massive, yes, it can cause the whole nation to fall in one day. So we have a prime example of the Valdivia earthquake in Chile. And this earthquake had a 9.5 magnitude. This affected most of the South American continent by inducing massive tsunamis. Yahweh is saying that he's going to cause an earthquake even greater than that, which means that not only is it going to affect the North American continent, but also surrounding countries. That includes, again, Canada, Mexico, and Central America.
the magma would explode through the ground in a cataclysmic eruption, with debris getting flung as high as 24 kilometers up into the stratosphere. Shortly afterwards, the lava flows themselves would engulf the surrounding area, and anywhere inside a range of 65 kilometers from the epicenter would be in danger of becoming literally buried in lava, which is basically the entire territory of the national park itself. Beyond this immediate danger of burning, the blast would eject 1,000 cubic kilometers of material up into the sky, creating a type of umbrella cloud expanding evenly in all directions and darkening the skies over most of the North American continent. This cloud would rain down toxic volcanic ash across the entire mainland United States. Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, Montana, and Utah will, however, experience the most significant devastation and will probably be almost completely buried with up to a meter thick of hot volcanic ash. Denver, Salt Lake City, and Boise will be severely damaged or just outright destroyed. Meanwhile, across the Midwest, Nevada, and southern Alberta, there would still be inches of ash coating everything in sight. Even the Atlantic and Pacific coasts would likely see a small dusting, although much of it would be highly dependent on the time of year and weather patterns involved. Basically, if you're looking at this map, everything in blue would be completely wiped out. Everything in purple would be highly damaged. Everything in orange would be sort of damaged. And everything in yellow would be mildly damaged. The North American continent would take a pretty significant bruise. But the worst part of all of this would obviously be the terrible toll that it would take on human life. With a full meter of ash possibly being poured down upon you and your city, even if you are not close enough to see the volcano, it could still possibly kill not only you, but also plants, animals, and even crush buildings with the sheer weight of dense ash deposits. Even just a few inches of ash can completely ruin farmland, clog up roadways, and create serious respiratory issues for large amounts of the population. Not to mention that it would take out key infrastructure, contaminate water supplies, down power lines, prevent nearly all air travel on the entire continent, and even take out electrical transformers, which would bring America's power grid to a complete and utter halt. What could be even worse is that the ash would likely wipe out the entire Midwest's crop of corn and soybeans, and could even poison the farmland for an entire generation. This would make food production within the United States severely crippled, and America would likely have to rely on food imports from other continents in order to survive. But beyond the absolute chaos going on across North America, a volcanic eruption this big would also have a major impact on the global climate and affect everybody who lives on this planet in some way. You see, volcanoes can emit sulfur aerosols that are capable of reflecting sunlight back away from the Earth, which causes the climate to cool down. For example, most recently, when Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines in 1991, it's estimated that it cooled the planet by an entire 1 degree for at least a few years. And that's not to mention the Great Tambora eruption, which occurred in Indonesia in 1815. That eruption, which was rated as a Category 7 on the Explosivity Index, is believed to have cooled the planet enough to damage crops around the world, potentially even causing several severe famines in certain areas. There was even snowfall during the month of June in the eastern half of the United States that year, as it became known as the year without a summer.
So if you paid attention, everything that was mentioned in this video explained the prophetical destruction of Babylon. So Babylon, it will be destroyed by earthquake, by famine, by death, by darkness, and will never, ever, ever again be inhabited by humankind. And nowhere have we read from this video, from part 1 or from part 2, where it explains the destruction of Babylon, that Yahweh is going to rapture up his people to be saved from this destruction. The only order that we have received to be saved from this destruction is simply to flee. So flee while the door is still open. So let's finish off with Jeremiah chapter 51. It says, "Flee from Babylon, run for your lives. Do not be destroyed because of her sins. It is time for Yahweh's vengeance, and he will repay her what she deserves. The sea has come up from over Babylon, and she is covered with the multitude of its waves. Her cities now lie in ruins, and she is a dry wasteland. I will punish Bel in Babylon, and I will bring out of his mouth what he has swallowed, and the nations shall not stream to him any more. Yes, the wall of Babylon shall fall. My people, go out of the midst of her, and let everyone deliver himself from the fierce anger of Yahweh. Then heaven and earth and everything that is in them will shout for joy over Babylon, because the destroyers will come to her from the north, declares Yahweh. You who have escaped the sword, get away. Do not stand still. Remember Yahweh afar off, and let Jerusalem come to mind. So just because we've left Babylon, the race is not yet over, it's just the beginning. Onwards to Tziyon. In the last part of this video, we will be seeing where the borders Yahweh is calling us to return to. Is it in Africa? Is it in the Middle East? This is not difficult to understand. This is 6th grade geography and social studies. And our journey begins with Abraham. All right, so let's begin with Genesis 11, verse 31. It says, And Terah took his son, Abram, and his grandson, Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law, Sarai, his son Abram's wife. And they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. So we see that Abraham started off in Ur, his journey, Ur of Chaldeans, which is another word basically for Babylon. And he traveled all the way up the coast of the Euphrates River into Haran, which is in present-day Turkey. Chapter 12. Now Yahweh had said unto Abraham, Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. And Abram was 75 years old when he had departed from Haran. Verse 12. And Abram took his wife, Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. So I have here in brown the region of Mesopotamia. This starts in the southeastern part of Turkey and the border of Syria, all the way down the Euphrates and the Tigris River into the Persian Gulf, which is modern-day Kuwait. So Abraham traveled all the way from Ur. He passed on his way to Haran. He passed by the Euphrates River, the coast of the Euphrates River, and then he went down into Canaan. Canaan is this red spot right here, which consists of part of Sinai, Israel, Jordan, and a little bit of Syria. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him. So Abram is still in the land of Canaan, and he traveled down specifically into Shechem. And today Shechem is in modern-day Nablus, which is in the West Bank, Palestine. All right, so Abraham, at this point, he is not in Africa. He is in the modern state of Israel. And Yahweh said that he would give his seed unto this land, not Africa. Verse 8, And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel. And he pitched his tent, Bethel on the west, and with Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. So the city of Bethel, it sits right outside of the city of present-day Ramallah, which is again in the West Bank, Palestine today. This is about 40 minutes to an hour north of Jerusalem. Verse 8. So Abram journeyed going on still toward the south. South does not necessarily mean Africa. So the word that is used here for south is not the cardinal term, which is darom. It uses the word nikba, and the word nikba comes from the word Negev. The Negev, this is a particular desert in Israel. It still exists today. So the Negev desert, The western side starts on the border of Gaza. The eastern side starts on the tip of the Dead Sea, and the southernmost part of the Negev ends in Eilat, which is the last city of Israel. So when you ever see the word Negev or Nigba, it is describing a specific location, not just anywhere south. So you will see more examples of this in just a minute. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there. For the famine was grievous in the land. On the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants, I have given this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. So the term in Hebrew used for the river of Egypt is Nahar Mitzrayim. Nahar Mitzrayim. Many people believe that this river is the Nile. I lean personally, after studying, not to believe so much that this is the Nile River, because there are about 65 occurrences where the word Yaor is used to describe the Nile River, and I'm going to give some circumstances. When it uses the word Yaor to describe the Nile River, it is very clear that it is speaking about this particular river, and I'll show you why. Now I believe that it is in reference to a different area. So Genesis 41:1, this is in context the dream that Pharaoh had that was later interpreted to Joseph. And the word here that is used is Yaor. It doesn't use the word Nahar Mitzrayim. We know for a fact that Pharaoh was not in Sinai, Egypt, right here. He was most certainly, we know from geography, we know from history, that all the kings were in the inner part of Egypt. Okay. Also in Exodus chapter 4, this is when Yahweh commands Moses to turn the river into blood, and it also uses the term Yaor. We know for a fact that this was the Nile River. Our ancestors, our forefathers, were in the inner part of Egypt before they crossed over the Red Sea. There are also many, many other circumstances that you can look up on your own where you'll see the word Yaor used to specifically describe the Nile River. All right, so we're going to start off with Numbers chapter 34. This is when the children of Israel have crossed over, and the elders are basically appointing to each tribe their plot of land and giving them their borders. Really quick, I'll share the cardinals with you. North is Tzafon. East, Mizrach. South, Darom. And west, Ma'arav. So south, the proper cardinal term is Darom. So let's start off with verse 3. It says, your southern side will include some of the desert of Tziyon along the border of Edom. Where it says here southern, it does not use the term Darom. If we look here in the Hebrew, it says Pat Negev, and the word Negev, as we learned a few minutes ago, Negev, this is the name of a specific desert in the region of Israel. So we know for a fact that he's speaking of a particular area, not just anywhere south. Your southern side will include some of the desert of Tziyon. So this is the desert of Tziyon. The border is going along Edom's border. Next it says, your southern boundary will end in the east, from the southern end of the Dead Sea. Again, it uses the word Negev, your southern. Negev, a particular region. Your southern boundary will end in the east, south of the Dead Sea. All right, so he's saying that the borderline ends here south of the Dead Sea down to the wilderness of Tziyon. And we will see, as the border then turns south of Ma'ale Akrabim, passing Tziyon, and its end shall be to the south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall extend to Hazar Adar and continue on to Azmon. So we're at here, Ma'ale Akrabim. Ma'ale Akrabim is here, the red dot. We're south of the Dead Sea. We learned a little bit down here, this is the Sin Desert, and across is the border of Edom. Let's start up north at Ma'ale Akrabim. We're going down south past the wilderness of Tziyon, and it ends south of Kadesh Barnea. I'll show you Kadesh Barnea right now. Kadesh Barnea is right here. Okay, so Ma'ale Akrabim, past the wilderness of Tziyon. Okay, south of Kadesh Barnea, we're still going down. Extended to Hazar Adar. According to my studies, no one knows exactly where this area is. Down towards Azmon. The area of Azmon, it is believed to be present day Wadi al Arish, which is located in Sinai, Egypt today. So this is a current image of Israel's border with the Sinai Peninsula. And there are streams through the Sinai Peninsula. The border then turns from Asmon to the stream of Egypt, and its end shall be to the sea. So here at Arish, Wadi al Arish, this is the Mediterranean Sea. So I believe personally that the borders of Abraham's Sea doesn't include the Nile River because not only in every instance that it's spoken of, it uses its proper term Ya'or. And for Yahweh to have given the Israelites inheritance as far as the Nile River, this would include the land of our captivity. And also, there's not much evidence, at least to my knowledge, that shows that our forefathers were all the way over here, outside of when they were in their captivity. All of our historical, geographical, archaeological evidence within the land of Canaan. But whether you choose to believe that the border is here or here, at the end of the day, it's kind of neither here nor there in this day. So let's find our western and northern border and wrap it up. Because your western boundary will be the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. This will be your boundary on the west. All right, so the boundary, that's pretty clear. The boundary is this whole sea, and the term that it uses is Yam Hagadol. As I stated earlier, a lot of people are saying that Africa is the promised land. A lot of the countries that these people are talking about are countries that are inland. So for your western boundary, where is your Yam Hagadol? Where is your big Mediterranean Sea? All right, your western boundary will be the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. This will be your boundary on the west. The border shall then extend to Ziphron, and its end shall be Hazar Enan, and this shall be your northern border. Okay, so Hazar Enan, the nearest city is Damascus, Syria. So Hazar Enan, the nearest city of today would be Damascus, Syria. So we have our borders. It starts all the way down from the southern tip of the Dead Sea, goes down past the wilderness of Sin. This is Edom down here. He's saying that we go down past Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh Barnea was around here to Wadi al Arish, Nahar Mitzrayim, the whole Mediterranean Sea, up until around Damascus, Syria. So that would include some of Lebanon and part of Syria. Now, we also know that because our forefathers were disobedient, they did not kill off all the people that Yahweh commanded them to, so they did not necessarily retrieve all the land that they were supposed to by the time their boundaries were given. Then it says, for your eastern boundary, run a line from Hazar Enan around Damascus, Syria, continue to Shepham, continue along the slopes of the Sea of Galilee. So this body of water is the Sea of Galilee. And it says the east side of Galilee. Okay, this is the east side, and this is the west side. Then the boundary will go down along the Jordan. So this whole area is considered the Jordan Valley. This is the border in between Israel and Egypt. Very beautiful area. This is my personal favorite part of the land of Israel. There's a lot of greenery and desert all in one area, and the valley area is really beautiful. Verse 12, then it says, the boundary will go down along the Jordan and end at the Dead Sea. Okay, so along the Jordan Valley, and end at the Dead Sea. All right, so these are the borders that were allotted to our forefathers. So to sum up what we have gone over, the land masses of Abraham he traveled through, get within these borders, whether that be Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. I know Syria and Iraq, there's a lot going on. I don't know if you want to go there, Saudi Arabia too. If you can't at the moment get with any of these borders, go into Turkey, Europe, or somewhere else in Africa with the intention of moving towards Zion. So very soon, I will also post a short follow-up video on commonly asked questions like visas, finances. There's a lot of people saying that they're poor, they're financially unstable. How can I get out? Work. If you have any other questions, please drop them down below in the comment section. Perhaps they will get addressed in the upcoming video. So stay tuned for part 3, The Gathering. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all a good rest of your week and a Shabbat Shalom.